I deleted Marcus Chen's entire career on a Tuesday afternoon in Cairo, sitting in a cafe that smelled of cardamom and burning garbage. The satisfaction lasted exactly 4 seconds before the panic set in. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a software engineer from Seattle ended up committing the perfect crime while eating Kanafa in a city where nobody knew his name. 3 months earlier, Marcus walked into our morning stand-up at TechFlow Solutions wearing that smile, the one that looked generous but felt like a knife pressed against your ribs. Ethan, he announced to the room, made an interesting choice with the authentication module yesterday. Interesting. That word hung in the air like smoke. I'd worked 70 hours that week fixing the mess he'd created. The authentication system was my design, my baby, 6 months of late nights and cold coffee. Marcus had gone rogue, pushed code without review at 3 a.m., and somehow convinced upper management it was a collaborative improvement. The approach has some philosophical differences from industry standards, he continued, pulling up my code on the projector. 12 faces turned to look at me. But I'm sure Ethan can explain why he chose to ignore OAuth 2.0 best practices. I hadn't ignored anything. He'd stripped out my security layers and replaced them with shortcuts that made my teeth hurt. That's not my code, I said quietly. Really? Marcus tilted his head, feigning confusion. His eyes were chips of polished obsidian. Because the commit history says otherwise. Unless you're suggesting I somehow hijacked your workstation. Laughter rippled through the room. Nervous laughter, the kind that meant everyone was relieved the knife wasn't at their throat. I think we should take this offline, our manager Sarah said, but the damage was done. I could already see it in their faces, doubt spreading like mold across bread. That was Marcus's gift. He didn't just steal credit, he made you doubt your own memory. I found the first clue 2 weeks later in Tokyo. The company had sent 6 of us to a blockchain conference, Marcus's idea, naturally. He'd positioned himself as our emerging tech specialist, despite barely understanding how a hash function worked. I was there as technical support, the grunt who made his demos actually function. On the second night, I couldn't sleep. Jet lag had my brain running in circles, replaying every meeting where Marcus had subtly redirected praise, every line of code he'd corrupted with my name attached. I went down to the hotel business center at 3 a.m., thinking I'd get some actual work done. That's when I saw his laptop, sitting open on the desk, password screen glowing in the darkness. I should have walked away. I'm not a snooper, never have been. But my hands moved before my conscience could stop them. I tried the obvious, password 123, his birthday, his dog's name. Nothing. Then, on impulse, I typed, Ethan is better. The screen unlocked. My stomach dropped. What kind of person uses someone else's name as their password? Someone who thinks about that person constantly. Someone obsessed. The laptop was full of folders labeled with names, Sarah, Dev, Christine, me. Mine was the largest. Inside were screenshots of my code, my emails, my Slack messages. Hundreds of them, organized by date and project. There was a document titled e.morrison_vulnerabilities.docs. I opened it. My hands were shaking. Subject shows consistent patterns of over-engineering. Emotional attachment to code makes him defensive when challenged. Trust in systems over people creates exploitable blind spots. Responds poorly to public criticism, used sparingly but strategically, asterisk. He'd been studying me. Not just my work, me. Like I was a system to crack, a puzzle to solve. I heard footsteps in the hallway and barely managed to close everything and disappear into the stairwell before he entered. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought they might crack. When I got back to my room, I threw up in the bathroom sink. That's when I started planning. The thing about revenge is that it reveals who you really are. I'd spent 32 years being the good guy, the team player, the one who fixed other people's mistakes without complaining. But lying in that Tokyo hotel room, staring at the ceiling while neon signs painted shadows across the walls, I realized something: being good had gotten me nothing but contempt. Marcus had a weakness. Everyone does. I just needed to find it. I started small, invisible. Back in Seattle, I began documenting everything. Every meeting, every interaction, every piece of code. I set up a private Git repository with all my original work, timestamped and cryptographically signed. I made copies of Slack conversations, emails, everything. But documentation wasn't enough. Marcus was too good at spinning narratives. I needed something bigger. The opportunity came from an unexpected source, Sarah, our manager. Ethan, got a minute? She closed the conference room door behind us. Her face looked drawn, tired in a way that went beyond lack of sleep. Has Marcus seemed off to you lately? I chose my words carefully. Off how? He submitted an expense report from Tokyo. $30,000 in consulting fees to some firm I've never heard of. When I asked about it, he got defensive, said it was for strategic partnerships. But accounting can't find any contracts or deliverables. My pulse quickened. That does seem unusual. There's more. She pulled out her laptop, turned it toward me. These are access logs from our production database. Someone's been querying customer data at odd hours. Financial information, personal details. The queries are masked, but they're coming from Marcus's API keys. Are you sure? That's what I'm trying to figure out. She looked at me with eyes that wanted desperately to trust someone. He says his keys were compromised, that someone must have stolen them. But the access patterns, they match his work schedule perfectly. Every query happens when he's logged into the VPN. This was it. The crack in his armor I'd been waiting for. I might be able to help, I said slowly. I have some security analysis tools. If you want me to look into it quietly. Sarah's relief was palpable. Would you? Off the books, just between us. I need to know if I'm being paranoid or if there's really something wrong. I spent the next week becoming someone I didn't recognize. I wrote scripts that traced Marcus's digital footprints across our systems. I found his hidden folders, his side projects, the consulting firm that existed only on paper. He'd been selling our customer data to competitors, small amounts carefully distributed so no single breach would raise alarms. But here's the thing, I also found something else. Messages to Sarah, to HR, to our CTO. Years of them. Marcus had been methodically undermining everyone on the team, planting seeds of doubt, positioning himself as the only competent engineer in a sea of mediocrity. He'd done it to me. He'd done it to everyone. And suddenly, my revenge plan felt too small. Too personal. I didn't just want Marcus fired, I wanted him erased. Cairo wasn't random. Marcus had been planning a trip there for months, pitching some partnership with a fintech startup. I volunteered to go instead, said I had contacts in the region. Sarah, still grateful for my investigation, approved it immediately. The city was chaos incarnate, cars that ignored lanes, calls to prayer echoing from minarets, dust that coated everything in sepia tones. I loved it. There was something liberating about being in a place where nobody knew me, where I could be anyone. I found a cafe in Zamalek, ordered strong coffee and 2 sweet pastry, and opened my laptop. The VPN routing through 3 countries. The burner phone I'd bought at the airport. The carefully crafted script I'd been perfecting for weeks. Marcus's consulting firm had a website, professional looking but hollow. I'd figured out the pattern. He'd use fake company credentials to extract data, then sell it through this front. The money went into cryptocurrency wallets, eventually funneling back to accounts in his name. What he didn't know was that I'd found his wallets. All of them. And I'd written a beautiful little piece of malware that would, when executed, do 3 things. First, it would document every illegal transaction he'd ever made, time-stamped and archived, then send that documentation to the FBI, SEC, and our company's legal team. Second, it would transfer every penny from his crypto wallets to a fund for cybersecurity education. Not to me, I didn't want his money. I wanted his legacy. Third, and this was my favorite part, it would replace every line of code he'd ever written in our codebase with my original implementations, complete with commit history showing the exact moments he'd overwritten my work. The technical erasure of a man's career. I hovered over the execute button. My finger trembled. In the street outside, someone was arguing in rapid Arabic, their voices rising and falling like a song. The espresso machine hissed. A fly landed on my pastry. 4 seconds of satisfaction, I'd said. But that's not quite accurate. The satisfaction started before I even pressed the button. It was in knowing I could. In understanding the system well enough to unmake the person who tried to unmake me. I pressed execute. The script ran in silence. No dramatic music, no countdown timer. Just a progress bar filling slowly while I ate kanafa and watched Cairo blur past the window. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Ethan, where are you right now? Cairo. The fintech meeting, remember? You need to come back. Now. Something's happened with Marcus. What kind of something? Her voice was shaking. The FBI is at the office. They're seizing his computer, his files, everything. They're saying he's been involved in corporate espionage, data theft. They have evidence going back years. That's crazy, I said, and I almost believed my own shock. There's more. Someone sent an anonymous report to the SEC. It's detailed, Ethan. Incredibly detailed. Transaction logs, communication records, technical analysis. Whoever put this together knew exactly what they were doing. Do they know who sent it? No. It came through some kind of encrypted service. Routed through, she paused, through Egypt, actually. Cairo, specifically. My blood went cold. But here's the weird thing, Sarah continued. The report also cleared you. Remember that authentication mess from a few months ago? This report includes the original code history, shows exactly how Marcus altered your work and made it look like yours. It's like someone went through every project he ever touched and documented every lie. I stared at my laptop screen. The progress bar had reached 100%. Ethan? You still there? Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. I know this is a lot to process. Marcus, we all trusted him. I trusted him. How could we all be so wrong about someone? Because he was good at it, I wanted to say. Because he understood that people see what they want to see, believe what's convenient to believe. I don't know, I said instead. I really don't know. I flew back to Seattle the next day. By the time I landed, Marcus had been arrested. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. His consulting firm was a shell company. The crypto wallets were frozen. His career wasn't just ruined, it was like it had never existed. In the office, people whispered. How had none of us seen it? What did it mean that a criminal had been sitting among us all this time? Sarah pulled me aside on my second day back. I owe you an apology, she said. For not seeing what was happening. For letting him undermine you. You didn't know. Neither did you, apparently. She studied my face. You never suspected anything. Not until you asked me to investigate. It wasn't exactly a lie. I hadn't suspected the full scope of his crimes. Just the small ones against me. The FBI wants to interview everyone, Sarah said. Standard procedure. They'll probably ask you about Cairo, since that's where the anonymous report originated. I'll tell them everything I know, I said. Which was nothing, technically. I knew nothing about any anonymous reports. The interview happened 2 weeks later. A young agent named Rodriguez, sharp-eyed and tired. She asked about my relationship with Marcus, about the Tokyo trip, about my time in Cairo. Did you notice anything unusual while you were in Egypt? Like what? Any suspicious activity on your devices? Anyone asking about TechFlow or Marcus Chen? No. I met with some potential clients, worked from cafes, did the usual business travel thing. She made notes, asked a few more questions, then closed her notebook. For what it's worth, Mr. Morrison, the anonymous report cleared you of any wrongdoing. In fact, it made you look like the only honest engineer on your team. I'm not the only honest one. Maybe not. But you're the one Marcus spent the most time trying to discredit. She stood to leave, then paused. Funny thing about that report. Whoever compiled it had intimate knowledge of your company's systems. Expert-level understanding of software architecture, security protocols, data analysis. Had to be someone on the inside. My mouth went dry. You think it was someone at TechFlow? We think it was someone who wanted Marcus Chen destroyed specifically and completely. Someone patient enough to wait for the perfect moment. She looked directly at me. Someone smart enough to make it look like justice instead of revenge. Did you find them? Rodriguez smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Not yet. But here's what keeps me up at night, Mr. Morrison. The anonymous report didn't just expose Marcus. It educated the FBI on methodologies we didn't even know existed. Whoever sent it essentially gave us a masterclass in digital forensics. So they helped you. They helped themselves. Marcus is in federal prison awaiting trial. His career is over, his reputation demolished, his finances seized. That's not justice, that's annihilation. And whoever did it is still out there, knowing they can unmake a person with a few thousand lines of code. She left me with that thought. It's been 6 months now. I got promoted to senior engineer. Sarah asks my opinion on new hires. The team treats me differently, with respect, but also something else. Wariness, maybe. Like they're not quite sure what I'm capable of. Sometimes I think about Cairo. The cafe, the Kanafa, the 4 seconds of satisfaction that became something else. Something heavier. Marcus writes me from prison. The first letter arrived last month. It was brief. I know it was you, *. I didn't respond. The second letter came yesterday. The thing about algorithms is they're predictable. People aren't. I spent years studying you, and I missed the most important variable, desperation. Or was it anger? I still can't figure out which. I don't blame you. I'd have done the same, probably. But here's what you need to understand, Ethan, you and I are the same now. You think you executed justice, but you executed revenge. And revenge changes you. It makes you into someone who can delete a person and eat pastry while watching it happen. So congratulations. You won. But look in the mirror sometime and ask yourself, what did winning cost you, asterisk. I burned the letter, but I can't unread it. Because he's right, isn't he? I'm not the same person who walked into that stand-up meeting and let Marcus humiliate me. I'm someone who can identify a weakness and exploit it. Someone who can be patient, methodical, ruthless. Someone who knows that the difference between justice and vengeance is just how good your story sounds. Late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about Cairo. The moment before I pressed execute. The knowledge that I was about to change someone's life irrevocably, and I was going to do it anyway. And the worst part? The part that keeps me awake. I'd do it again. That's what winning cost me. The ability to pretend I'm the good guy. I'm writing this from another cafe, different city, different name. The company sent me to London for a conference. The project lead here is brilliant but taking credit for her team's work. I've been watching her, studying her patterns. It would be so easy. I close my laptop, leave money on the table, and walk out into the rain. Behind me, the cafe fades into the fog. Ahead, the city sprawls endlessly, full of people who think they're safe from consequences. But algorithms are patient. And I've gotten very good at writing them. The revenge was petty, Marcus would say. He stole credit, I destroyed his life. Disproportionate. Excessive. But here's what he never understood, there's no such thing as petty revenge. There's only revenge you regret, and revenge you don't. I haven't decided which kind mine was yet.